Hello, my name is John Bannon. I'm an attorney and philosopher. In today's video, I'm going to explain how superdeterminism destroys Confucius. This video is what they failed to teach you in college philosophy class about Confucius. When I talk about superdeterminism, I'm referring to a very specific, unique version of superdeterminism called Hansonian superdeterminism. It's based on a proof by Swedish theoretical physicist Dr. Johan Hansen. You can find it in the peer-reviewed physics journal Physics Essays, volume 33, number 2, June of 2020, pages 216 to 218. It is entitled Bell's Theorem and Its Tests, Proof that Nature is Superdeterministic, Not Random. Hansonian superdeterminism says that we live in a static block universe without cause and effect in physics, or probabilistic causation, or physical causation. This is very different than the classic form of superdeterminism first posited by Dr. John Bell in 1985, because classic superdeterminism uses hidden causal variables to explain the correlations of entangled particles, whereas Hansonian superdeterminism disproves causation, so it can't possibly rely on hidden causal variables to explain the correlation seen in entangled particles. Instead, it explains the entanglement correlations through a fourth dimensional static block universe where the entangled correlated spin measurements just happen to exist where they are in the static dimension of time, even non-locally. So Hansonian superdeterminism says we live in three dimensions of space and a fourth hidden dimension of time, and that all the particles in this fourth dimensional block universe are set in concrete. You can't move them. They can't change. They're permanent, but they do create patterns through the static dimension of time, and those patterns are described by our laws of physics. Now, I've listed 5 points of Confucius philosophy on the board, and I'm going to explain how superdeterminism disproves each and every one of them. The fifth point is that the heavens do not speak to you. So Confucius is dismissing the idea of any sort of personal communication with the divine or personal spiritual experiences based on the Holy Spirit or from God. However, Hansonian superdeterminism says that because God atemporally created our static block universe, then he predetermined every event that exists in the static block universe. And all events, past, present, and future, are equally real in the static block universe, and they all still presently exist. So God can predetermine events in the block universe, even within your own head or your own thoughts, to communicate with you. So, predetermined spiritual experiences, even within your own head and your own thoughts, are entirely possible under Hansonian superdeterminism. Even thoughts to yourself or speaking to yourself can be a predetermined spiritual experience meant by God to communicate something to you. God does not have to intervene in a predetermined static block universe because the whole thing already exists and you can't change it. So there's no need to intervene in it. He simply predetermined all the events, all the spiritual experiences, all the responses to prayers when he created the block universe. Number four, more than one God. So Confucius believed that there was more than one God. There were gods. But under Hansonian superdeterminism, you can only have one creator God. Now, the idea is that our static block universe was atemporally created outside of space-time, and that requires a creator God in order to do that. And this God must be supremely intelligent, have free will, and knowledge or omniscience of everything in order to do that. So if God is going to uh, bring forth our static block universe, ex nihilo or from nothing, he must first know and understand everything that's in the static block universe before he makes it in order to make it. So, all the advanced technologies in the static block universe, God would already have to have known and understood those advanced technologies, which means he would have to be supremely intelligent by definition. He would also have to have the free will to choose what physical reality to create and what physical reality he isn't going to create. And he, of course, has to have omniscience or all knowledge of all possibilities because he has the power to create all these possible physical realities. So, because of that, um, you can only have one God. And the reason is if you had two gods, then you'd have one God who could decide to create X universe, but another God who decides to withhold from creating X universe. Well, that means the creation of any universe is logically impossible because you have two gods. Once one is creating it, the other one's not creating it. And due to that conflict, it becomes a logical impossibility for anything to be created. And because the universe was atemporally created, then you know there can only be one God. Now, the evidence for atemporal creation, there's several things, but I'll just point out a couple. First is the fact that if you look at the wave-like nature of quantum mechanics, you can ask yourself, well, why is quantum mechanics wave-like in its mathematics? And if you think about waves, you'll understand why. Because if you take two pebbles and you drop them from an equal height into a pond, and they create ripples, and these ripples come towards each other, at the point of interference, you will get constructive and destructive interference. So at the point of interference, some of the wave heights will be twice the amount. And at other points where there's destructive interference, you'll have perfect stillness. They'll cancel each other out. Well, if you look at that perfect stillness and you take it in reverse, what do you have? Suddenly you have something from nothing, stillness to waves. So the mathematics of quantum mechanics allows for the idea of creating something from nothing, ex nihilo. So if the universe was created from nothing, nothing has no power to create without cause and effect in physics, then that means there must be a God with the power to create something from nothing. Another uh, evidence of atemporal creation is the scientific evidence of transcendent logic. There was a recent experiment which showed that virtual particles actually played a role in particle collisions. But virtual particles are mathematical constructs, they're not real. So if there's a mathematical construct involved in particle collisions, but it's not real, then that means there must be transcendent logic involved in these particle collisions. But if there's transcendent logic, what do you need transcendent logic for? Unless you're creating physical reality. So that's more evidence that the universe was atemporally created. Number three, humans are inherently good if they follow their innate feelings. However, under Hansonian superdeterminism, because all events are predetermined, past, present, and future, they all presently exist, they're still there, they're permanent, then the entire history of humanity exists in the static block universe right now. All the events of human history are there right now, past, present, and future. And that includes all the evil human behavior throughout human history. So you cannot simply extricate the evil behavior of human beings from their predetermined human history that exists in the block universe. So clearly, because the entire history of humanity is a reflection of the essence of humanity, and that predetermined history includes evil, then part of the essence of humanity must be evil. So clearly, humans are not innately good. And also, the idea that you can simply follow your innate feelings to goodness assumes that there's a causal process where if you cause yourself to follow your feelings, you will be a good person. But in Hansonian superdeterminism, there's no such thing as a causal process because there's no cause and effect in physics. So that whole idea that you can cause yourself by following your feelings to be good is false. Number two, uh, the meaning of life is to be entirely sincere. However, under Hansonian superdeterminism, potentials cannot be universal meanings of life. And sincerity is a potential. Um, you may or may not be sincere. That's a potential. In fact, there are babies who are born without their cerebrums, so they are never conscious. And if you're never conscious, you can never experience sincerity. So, under Hansonian superdeterminism, everybody has a block life, meaning that all the events of their life from birth to death uh, continue to exist in the static block universe. So your present moment right now is a particular location in the static dimension of time. But you 5 minutes ago is still there, experiencing 5 minutes ago. But that's a different location in the static dimension of time, similar to the idea of you 5 minutes from now. You are experiencing 5 minutes from now. It's just that it's in a different location in the static dimension of time. So, because all the events of your life uh, are predetermined and exist in the block universe, you have a block life. Essentially, it's you appearing in the universe through the static dimension of time as an information packet. So if you can think of your body and its existence in three-dimensional space and it being repeated through a static dimension of time as you experience life, that whole um, fourth dimensional object, that would be your block life. And your block life is permanent. You always have it. You can't change it. You're an immortal in the block universe. So when you talk about universal meanings of life, it has to be something that every living person has in their block life. Because it makes no sense to say to somebody that the meaning of life is X, some potential X, where that X never appears in this person's block life. So for them to say, for you to say to them that X is the meaning of their life, but X never appears in their block life, then it is meaningless to them to say that a potential that doesn't appear in their block life is their meaning in life. So the only universal meaning of life, the only thing that all life shares in common is a block life. So the universal meaning of life is the predetermined role your block life plays in the predetermined static block universe, which was planned and predetermined by God. So the universal meaning of life is the role you play in God's predetermined plan for the universe and human history. That's all it can be. So things like sincerity cannot be universal meanings of life because they're potentials. Number one, the universe is a state of becoming. So Confucius believed that all that exists is the present now. And that's it. The past is gone, future doesn't exist. The present um, transforms into the next moment of time, and in doing so, it itself disappears. So you're essentially talking about an ever changing, churning, constant present moment of now. That's the idea that the universe is always becoming into present existence. However, that is totally false under Hansonian superdeterminism. Hansonian superdeterminism says the present moment cannot turn into the next moment of time because there's no cause and effect in physics. So nothing can cause the present moment to turn into the next moment of time. But because the future nonetheless arrives, then because the future isn't caused by the present, then the future must already exist. But where does it exist? Well, there has to be a hidden dimension of time in which the future exists. That's why we live in a 4D block universe, because of this hidden static dimension of time. So the universe is not a becoming. In fact, it can't be caused to be anything. It can't be caused because there's no cause and effect in physics. It's a fourth dimensional static block universe. Nothing moves in it because nothing can be caused to move. It's just a collection of particles arranged and set in concrete in fourth dimensional space time. And these patterns through the static dimension of time give us this illusion of consciousness and this illusion that the present is preferred over the past and the future. But that's an illusion, a trick of the mind. And the truth is, the past and future are already there and they already exist. And the universe is not in a state of becoming. Okay, well, I hope you learned something, and I'll give you a second to read the board. All right, until next time, take care.